Hello and welcome to the Institute of Politics. As you know, tonight we're having a speech from the ambassador from the People's Republic of China. My name is Cynthia Rice, and I'm chair of the projects committee down here at the Institute. We're co-sponsoring this event with the Chinese Students Association, and as you may know, you've seen Institute of Politics posters and Chinese Students Association posters all over campus. I'd like to introduce Professor Dwight Perkins, who will be moderating the ambassador's speech here. Professor Perkins is director of the Harvard Institute for International Development.
Well, it's a particular pleasure for me to welcome Ambassador Han back to Harvard. He was here in 1975, and also to welcome his wife, Madam Ge Chi-yun, who in this massive audience, I'm not sure. Oh, there you are, right in front of me, yes. We're delighted to have you here with us. The last time I met Ambassador Han, he had the job of doing a bit of the warm-up prior to my giving a lecture. Believe me, you've got the better of the deal, hearing the lecture from him. I just want to say just a very brief word about his background, and then turn the microphone over to him for the rest of the evening. We will have an opportunity for questions after he's finished his talk. He's changed the main topic of his talk. It will be on U.S.-China relations rather than Chinese economic reforms. But if you would like to ask questions about Chinese economic reforms or any other topic within broad limits, you should feel free to do so. Ambassador Han is, needless to say, extremely well qualified to talk about U.S.-China relations, because virtually every event in U.S.-China relations, he has been a major part of it. He was born in Beijing and attended Yenjing University in Beijing briefly before he and one of his professors left in 1942 to join the 8th Route Army to fight the Japanese. He then entered the diplomatic corps and served in various places, including the Soviet Union. But what is really, I think, relevant to all of us tonight is his involvement with the normalization of relationships between the United States and China over these last 15 years. When Henry Kissinger got off the plane in 1971, was it? Or the first person he met was Ambassador Han on his secret flight to Beijing to begin negotiations. He was involved then in the discussions with President Nixon and the signing of the Shanghai Communique. He then came to the United States with the opening of the liaison office. In fact, was really involved in the opening of the liaison office and was here formally as number 2 in the mission, but as with ambassadorial rank, and was in the United States for 6 years. He then returned to China, was involved in the final normalization process, was head of, for a while, of North American Affairs, and then Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. And then in May of 1985, he returned to the United States as the ambassador of the People's Republic of China. There's the normalization process. It's not only that he has been a small part of it, he has in fact been a central part of the whole normalization process. It's hard to imagine anybody better qualified to talk to us today on the subject of U.S.-China relations. Ambassador Han, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to come back to Harvard campus. I was here 11 years ago, and I came here with one alumni of Harvard. His name is Mr. Ji Chaozhu, now our ambassador stationed in Fiji. I also want to thank Dwight for your kind introduction. I would first like to thank the Chinese Student Association here and also the John Kennedy Institute of Government. If I don't know I put the name correctly or not. for their most kind invitation. Harvard students' vitality and youthfulness make me forget that I'm 62 years old, and Harvard is 350 years old. It has been a long time since Harvard had its first president of the United States and first Nobel Prize winner. But it's fairly recent that you see so many Chinese students in your campus, be they from the mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or elsewhere in the world. Perhaps the podium today would be appropriate for a brief discussion of Sino-American relations. Where do they stand now? Where will they be hiding tomorrow? There are highly relevant and intellectually challenging questions. Hans Morgenthau once said, objectives of a foreign policy must be defined in terms of the national interests. When President Nixon stepped out of his airplane in Beijing in 1972, what he clearly had in mind were American national interests. It was the convergence of the Chinese and American national interests that brought our two countries together. Facts since then have shown that progress in Sino-American relations is in the best interest of both our peoples and the world peace. On both sides of the Pacific, people with vision don't talk in terms of who needs whom more, but in terms of satisfying mutual needs in this century and beyond. Looking at the world map and the international situation, they know all too well the importance and the implications of good Sino-US relations. That goes a long way to explain why these relations has been able to stay on track even in adverse circumstances. What we have both traversed in a vast distance, mental as well as physical. The nature of our bilateral discussion tells a lot about the status of our relations. In 1971, our mind was focused on how to keep the Kissinger secret trips confidential. Today, the topic is how to plan more and more high-level trips in the wake of the exchange of visits between Chinese President Li Xiannian, Premier Zhao Ziyang, and the U.S. President Ronald Reagan, and the Vice President George Bush. In 1971, there was no bilateral trade to talk about. Today, our conversation tends to be loaded with facts and figures in a whole set of trade categories. From no contact to exploratory discussion, and then to substantive talks crowned with positive results. This is the path we have taken. In 1985, our bilateral trade reached $7.3 billion US, way above the 1984 record of $6.1 billion. United States has become the biggest foreign investor in China, committing over $2.1 billion US. There are about 400 projects under the 24 Sino-US protocols on scientific, technological cooperation. There are 17,000 Chinese students and scholars studying in the U.S. campus. About 250,000 Americans visit China a year. Right at this moment, U.S. Navy ships are paying an unprecedented visit to the Chinese coastal city of Qingdao. However, I'm not here mainly to talk about the past and present, but about the future. Looking down the road, I see several major challenges and opportunities. On the international arena, an important question is how to treat the differences in our respective attitude towards certain international issues. We largely see eye to eye with each other on Cambodia and Afghanistan, but we differ considerably on such issues as the Middle East and Central America. China pursues an independent foreign policy of peace and judges each case on its own merits. Given our different perspectives, the above divergence of opinion is quite natural and should not hinder the development of our bilateral relations. Besides, it's fair to say that even within the United States itself, public opinion is very often split down right in the middle. Maybe Harvard is an exception, but yet to be discovered. My view is that the Chinese and American sides should have deeper and more frequent exchanges of views so as to gain a better mutual understanding. However, neither side should try to impose its views on the other. On the bilateral front, the Taiwan question is still the main obstacle. Many of you remember that Daniel Webster, the 19th century New England senator, once said, "Liberty and union, now and forever, one and inseparable." A nation with such a resounding line ought to understand the strong aspiration of another nation for reunification. The Chinese government has put forward the formula of one country, two systems, which I believe offers the best hope for the peaceful reunification of Taiwan with the mainland of China. Some doubt that the practicality of the formula for lack of precedent. Well, this formula is being successfully pursued with regard to the Hong Kong question. After all, human civilization has developed to such an extent that in order to end an impasse, why shouldn't we bless a new trail? As a first step in that direction, the Chinese government has proposed 3 exchanges: the exchange of mails, trade, and air and shipping services between the mainland and Taiwan. Unfortunately, the proposal of the 3 exchanges has been met by the Taiwan Authority 3 no's. That is, no contact, no negotiation, and no compromise. One may ask, since there are so many divided families on both sides of the Taiwan Straits, how can anybody refuse to allow the unquestioned people to exchange mail with their kith and kin? How can anybody deny them the right to travel across to see their Dear ones, why shouldn't brothers and sisters of the same nation benefit from each other economically, while even the world trade pattern is gradually transcending international ideological differences? If one wants to discuss human rights, here are some basic human rights questions to be tackled. We sincerely hope that the U.S. government will soon come out in support of the three exchanges proposal, for contact of this kind will help enhance mutual understanding between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait, thus creating conditions for them to proceed to discuss the question of reunification and ways to achieve it. No one can deny the fact that the United States has all along been involved in the Taiwan question. The Taiwan Relations Act, adopted by the U.S. Congress in 1979, even treats Taiwan as an independent political entity. And to this day, the United States still sells a large amount of arms to Taiwan. We think it's very important for the U.S. government to observe strictly both the letter and spirit of the three Sino-U.S. joint communiques and approach the Taiwan question from a long-term strategic perspective. While only those will Sino-U.S. relations develop more smoothly. Given the close interaction between politics and economics, economic cooperation is certainly an area of great importance and promise. Sino-U.S. trade has developed rapidly in recent years, yet such trade only accounts for 1.2% of U.S. total trade volume. The potential is vast, but how to tap it? I believe individual, separate, and combined efforts are called for. At present, China's effort to the U.S. consists of three more or less equal parts: textile, oil products, raw material, and light industrial goods. This lack of diversity ought to be changed, but it takes time, as you know, well imagine. The reality is oil price has gone down drastically, and there is strict U.S. restriction on Chinese textile imports, which actually account for only 7% of the total U.S. textile imports. We in China understand America's deep anxiety about its growing trade deficit. But let me set the record straight. In Sino-U.S. trade, it's China that has a chronic deficit. Since China does not believe in going heavily into debt, it needs to export more in order to import more from the United States. Therefore, we are doubly concerned about American trade protectionism. We hope that the tide can be stemmed somehow so that mutual benefits will not be washed away. The U.S. government has repeatedly stated that it regards China as a friendly, non-allied country. Accordingly, it's reasonable for China to expect that U.S. to change its outdated trade legislation discriminating against China and relax its control on technology transfer. All this will add to mutual trust and boost economic cooperation. Some Americans have the so-called baby tiger notion. That is, when the tiger grows up, it will bite the hand that feeds it. They are essentially saying that technology transfer in a one-way street, and China will become a fierce economic competitor for the U.S. Let me say that a lot of give and take is involved in Sino-U.S. trade, economic, scientific, and technological cooperation. China has also offered substantially to the U.S. side in terms of seismology, agriculture, geology, archaeology, medical herbs, and so on. The basic fact is China and the U.S. are at different levels of development. China needs considerable time to absorb advanced foreign technology, not to mention whether China can afford the cost of a large amount of such technology. In any event, China's huge domestic market will soak up the bulk of the products produced by such technology. The real worry some American China hands have is that given China's access to many resources of foreign technology, if the U.S. does not come forward, others will. In the process, the U.S. would lose lots of business opportunities and the chances to create more mutual trust and goodwill with the Chinese. On its part, China should improve its economic legislation, gain more managerial experience, and create a better investment environment. Some Americans complain about procrastination, red tape, and the high cost of doing business in China. Well, China's civilization is old. Unluckily, so is our bureaucracy. Give us some time, we will be able to fix the whole thing. As a matter of fact, we have already taken a series of measures, such as cuts in income tax and land rents, so as to give foreign businessmen more incentive to invest in China. There have already emerged a number of big Sino-U.S. joint projects, such as the Pingshuo coal mine jointly undertaken by the Chinese and the Occidental Petroleum Corporation, and the co-production of passenger airplane between McDonnell Douglas Corporation and Shanghai. As nothing succeeds like success, we Chinese and Americans should join hands in bringing off these major jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, China is the largest developing country with rich resources and a big market, but it lacks capital, advanced technology, and a managerial experience. The United States is the largest developed country with lots of capital, advanced technology, and a rich managerial experience, but it needs a big market and certain raw materials. This makes our two economies complementary to each other and creates favorable conditions for long-term cooperation. Besides, China is firmly committed to its policy of opening to the outside world. Between 1986 and 1990, China expects to increase its import and export total by 40%, and the 1990 trade volume will reach at least $83 billion US. China will also try to use more foreign investment and advanced technology. The emphasis is on improving China's economic infrastructure, such as resource development, energy, transportation, as well as technological renovation of machine building, electronics, and other industries. The United States is strong in all these fields, and it's certainly in a good position to bring into full play its advantages. In the last few days, I have come to admire all the more the people who have linked Boston and China's Hangzhou in a sister city relationship. The beauty of the Charles River reminds me of the elegance of the White Lake in Hangzhou. The diligence here reminds me of the hard-working spirit there. You have built Route 128. We are constructing one right now. This visit to Harvard makes me think a lot about the value of education and knowledge. Harvard cultivates scholars. Scholars should not only remember the past, but have a broad vision for the future. Harvard produces talents. Talents are 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Harvard has turned out a galaxy of leaders in various fields. Leaders are respected not only because of their exceptional ability, but because of their firm dedication to people's welfare and nation building. Sino-U.S. friendship and cooperation need many such scholars, talents, and leaders. I am certain that Harvard is in a good position to meet this historical need. Thank you all.
Ambassador Han has said he'd be willing to take a few questions, and I will, if you will come to the microphones which are placed around the forum, and he will, I guess you can just call on, or at least if there are microphones up on the top, I don't think anybody will be able to see them, but in any case, there's one up there and two here. If anybody would have questions, they could come to the microphone. Just if you just come up, and then Ambassador Han will call on you, and I will stay out of it unless one of you decides that you really want to make a speech, in which case I may re-enter. Let me, I guess.
Yes, sir. Mr. Han, as much as the Chinese want to see a unified China, Koreans want to see a unified Korea. And with normalization of Sino-American relationship, I think, and with China's potentially great role in reunifying two Koreas, isn't it a logical step that China open normal relationship with South Korea?
I think the unification of Korea depends on the two parts, the North and the South. We support the DPRK's proposal to have independent, peaceful reunification, and all the proposals about to carry out negotiation by the North and South, and also the tri-party conference, also including United States. And as to our relation with South Korea, we have a little development. That is in the multilateral area. We have sent a big delegation to attend the Asian Games held in Seoul. And we have very fierce competition on the gold medal. And I think through all these exchanges will increase, mutual understandings. But about this bilateral relation, I believe it's still premature.
Yeah. Ambassador, my name is Fong. I'm from Taiwan, and I have a question regarding your 3 yeses and our 3 nos. I guess one aspect of this proposal of yours, you have to take a consideration of psychology of people of Taiwan today. I'm sure we don't pose any military or political threat to you today. Why can't you renounce the use of force against Taiwan before you make these propositions to the people of Taiwan?
I can make an announcement right away. We are not going to use force to Taiwan with, before a Taiwanese. But we cannot take this commitment with foreign countries, because how to solve the Taiwan issue is entirely the internal affairs. So we want, to solve the issue in peaceful way. So we haven't said that it's already a long time there's no fight between along the 2 sides of the Taiwan Strait.
Well, Mr. Ambassador, why can we leave the United States out of this? Because Marshal Ye Jianying has made a unilateral statement to the people of Taiwan on the 9-point peaceful proposals.
Yes.
And he didn't count the United States then. So why can't you make another unilateral statement to the people of Taiwan, simply stating we will not use force against our own people, and you are not giving up unification, the goal, but we will work toward unification peacefully?
I think we have already passed a message to the Taiwan Authority, because as the editorial of the People's Daily, 8th of February this year, we say let's join the effort to vitalize the Chinese nation. We hope that both sides of the Taiwan Strait cooperate, because it's good for Taiwan, it's good for the mainland China. Because Taiwan, you have surplus capital, you have some technology, and you also in shortage of a lot of resources. You need cotton, but you buy through the third party, and then the price will be maybe 5% or 10% higher than directly buy from mainland China. Why don't we have direct trade? Yes, we haven't mentioned this. We haven't mentioned this for a long time, but we cannot cannot take the commitment. To foreign countries, as I mentioned, because it's clear. We will see. Practice and facts will prove what I said. We never resort to, by force, to compel Taiwan to reunify with mainland China. We leave this to the people on Taiwan Island and also to the authority on Taiwan Island. On Taiwan.
I'm also from Taiwan. Mr. Ambassador,
yes.
Since you said it's leave on the people of Taiwan, and I think the people on Taiwan has an aspiration just like the New Englanders in the 1776. New England is the place where the Americans lead their revolution for independence. And the Taiwanese right now enjoy a much better living standard and a much more pluralistic political system, that its aspiration of Taiwanese may be self-determination. Why don't you let us have a referendum to decide our own future instead of you impose that it is the desire of two sides? We can be an independent country just like South Korea to deal directly commercial with you, and in a very peaceful and very fruitful nation-to-nation state. As Chairman Mao said in 1939 to Aga Snow, that Taiwan should be independent. Why not?
I think this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong report about Chairman Mao told Aga Snow. I haven't heard this. It's a news. And yes, let me answer this question first. Taiwan is a part of China for a long time. Even the authority in Taiwan say there is only one China. If yes, it's the authority, and so if those who are going to say Taiwan will separate from China, he will be regarded as a traitor to the whole nation. Why should a country be separated to two parts? And I don't think in the United States, New England wants to be independent. To be New England is a part of the United States, is a forefront, to lead the revolution. And then they also united for the Union, to have a stronger United States. They fought for the Civil War, for a better America. So I hope you also study the history of the United States. There is no separation, sentiment in the United States. They want the whole 50 states consolidate, unified. They don't want New England to be separate from United States. Same thing, the sentiment of the Chinese nation. Taiwan is a part of China. I'm wondering whether what you said reflects the feeling of the majority of the Taiwan people, or only by yourself. I wonder.
We don't want to turn this into sort of a series of one-on-one debates, so I think if we could sort of go back and forth so everyone gets their question in, I think if we go.
I'm not interested in the question of unification. I want to talk about something that you're not talking about tonight, the economic reform of China. As far as I know, there are a couple new developments going on in the Chinese markets. I heard that there's a new stock exchange that opened up in Shenyang, and also another one in Shanghai. And I wonder, will you comment on the role of these stock exchanges that will contribute to the modernization or economic reform of China?
Yes, we are now carrying out the economic reform in China. There are a lot of new things come out every day. So what I have learned is also from newspaper. I read that there is stock exchanges in Shenyang and also stock exchanges. And so far as now, the New York stock exchanges, the chairman of New York Stock Exchange, Mr. Phelan, is now leading a group of American investment experts to China. Maybe they start from today to have a discussion with, they are invited by the Chinese People's Bank. And this is like the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. And they are going to discuss, because this is a way, to make use of the capital among the peoples, how to use the capital. So we are now explore the possibility of a monetary market. So this is a trial or an experiment. It's only started. So I don't know how long it will take. We will start, all over in China.
Unified Stock Exchange as well. I think they're very knowledgeable about the stock markets stuff. Thanks.
There's a gentleman up.
Oh, Mr. Han, you mentioned that the one country, two systems scheme has no precedent in history, but you also believe that the experiment in Hong Kong will be a success. What are the reasons, for you to say that, the Hong Kong experiment will be a success?
Because this one country system is actually an invention you cannot find from classical Marxism. You cannot find from any history. So it's the practical situation confront China. So we must find some way to solve this issue. So there is a formula that's one country, two system. It's first time mentioned before by Deng Xiaoping before Dr. Brzezinski, I think in 1984 February. Why we believe it will success? Because Hong Kong will keep its social system for 50 years, no change. We promised. And when Hong Kong returned to China in the year 1997, China will not even send one administrator to Hong Kong. And the Hong Kong will be ruled by Hong Kong people themselves. We are now drafting a basic law for Hong Kong according the Constitution 31st Article 31st of the People's Republic of China. Hong Kong will become a special administrative region with its own basic law. This basic law is now drafting. After 2 years, the draft will be made public. So everything will be clear how we will treat Hong Kong. A lot of people are worried about the future of Hong Kong. But we wish to keep Hong Kong prosperous and stable. It's not only in the interest of Hong Kong people, but also in the interest of China. So I believe we will try our best, to fulfill, to realize this formula. And it's already accepted by British. So it means they also believe there is the feasibility of this formula. Otherwise, they are not going to sign this agreement with China.
Mr. Ambassador, it's been estimated that Kampuchea has lost in the last 10 years, at least in the decade of the 70s, perhaps a quarter or more of its entire population. Since China has had some role in the events of that country, I was wondering if you can give an estimate of your idea of the prospects for achieving an independent country there without having to go through civil war or repeating the horrors of the Khmer Rouge.
To solve the question of Kampuchea, first, let the Vietnam troops withdraw from Kampuchea. And then there is a possibility to solve this problem, politically. We hope all the parties concerned, all the political parties concerned in Kampuchea will have the right. We don't wish one party will monopolize the power again. And we wish Kampuchea will become an independent, peaceful, non-aligned country. China has no interest whatsoever on Kampuchea. We really hope Cambodia will become a peaceful, independent, and non-aligned country, as it was before. But the precondition is Vietnam has to withdraw their troops. Then this can be taken up on agenda.
Hello, Mr. Han. I'm a student at Harvard. First, I want to thank you for your speech. I enjoyed it very much. It was very encouraging to hear something positive about our relationships. During your speech, you mentioned the fact that some Americans are mistrustful of China because they consider it some sort of baby tiger. I was sort of wondering about the other side of the coin. I was wondering if you think the official Maoist communist ideology of the Chinese regime would considerably hinder the mutual interests and relationships between China and the United States in the years to come, and if you think that there's some way to overcome this obstacle in our relationships.
I think at present, if you treat the international problem according the differences of the social system of the ideology, is already obsolete, because countries with same social system and the same, similar ideology may not get along very well. And countries with different social system and ideology, they can get along very well. Fact proves. So ideology will not be a hindrance of a good relation of two countries. So long as both countries observe the peaceful coexistence, 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. And these 5 principles has been agreed upon by U.S. and China together in Shanghai Communique.
Thank you.
Their questioner up on
Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you expect or would hope that Chinese trade increases by 40% in the next 5 years. Yet many experts on China's economy say that in many aspects, especially in agriculture, it's reached a point where future development would need an almost impossibly expensive and difficult effort. In that light, how can such an ambitious expansion realistically take place?
Our agricultural products is, reached a record in the year 1984. We produced 407 million tons of food grain. And then we start to export food grain instead of imports. We export some rice, we import wheat, because we have good relation with Canada. Because Canada supply food grain to China. In those days, United States blockade China. So we cherish the friendship. So even now, we buy wheat from Canada. I think now in the rural area, has been, all the people who have visited China witness the prosperous situation in the rural area of China. And the growth of the income of in the rural area is more than in the city, in the urban area. So I don't know what is the basis to say there is a problem in this agriculture. It's true, there are some problems. It's because last year we have a reduction of food grain because of a drought and the flood. But this year we already improved. So this year we will, last year we have a reduction of about 27 million ton, 27 million ton of food grain reduction last year. This year we may increase 10 million tons, maybe more. So we are now we can fundamentally self-sufficient of our food grain. And talking about the trade, is mainly we will develop our industry, because from the statistics you will notice
the agricultural products, the percentage of the agricultural products and the raw material is declined, and the percentage of industrial goods are growing. So we are trying to improve our industrial productions. I think by this way we can export and we also import. If we can export more, we can increase. We can import more. We believe this is a two-way trade, a two-way street. I think this is not a very ambitious program, because 40%, the coming 5 years only increased 4%. In the last 5 years, we doubled our foreign trade. So we believe it's feasible.
Okay, the idea is that many people think, based on evidence, that the tremendous increase in the past few years of China's economics is due to the fact that they were catching up to more Western standards. But now they've reached a limit where they can no longer catch up and must develop independently. And does this mean that you can still continue at this phenomenal growth rate?
According to the 5-year plan from the year 1986 to 1990, the average increase will be 7 to 8%. This year will be 7% or 8%. Let us wait and see the statistics of this year. Then everything will be clarified.
About the recent U.S. decision to withdraw $10 million from the UN Fund for Population Activities because of the purported coercion in the China Family Planning Program, and the threat next year to withhold the entire funding for the UNFPA because of the China program. And I wondered if you'd comment on it. I think most of us here are aware of what a monumental population problem China has, and if you could comment on what the reaction of the Chinese government has been, what steps are being taken to address some of the accusations, and just your views on it.
Yes. First of all, I mean, this is against the international norm to block this allocation money, because U.S. administration is going to interfere the program of an international organization. And so far as the population policy of China, because we already have a big number of population, now it's 1,050 million. So it grows as 5 years ago only 1 billion, now it's 1,050 million. So we need to carry out a family plan in order to enhance the living standard of the people. And this, what population policy pursued by a government is the internal affairs of the country concerned. This principle has been agreed upon by all the countries, including the United States, attend the Mexico City Conference on Population. But I don't know why U.S. blockade. Maybe they say there are some they say they are coercive abortion. According to the news report in this country, I cannot exclude some individual cases happen in China of coercive abortion, maybe by one village or by other. So, but this is not the policy of our government. All those will be severely punished. And we made public on our newspaper what China is doing in this family plan. Because if there's a population explosion, it's not only harm the interest of Chinese people, but also also the people in the world.
I guess part of the question, though, is sometimes it doesn't work in the best interest of the policy as well. And I think in a problem, that part of the problem may be that, and whether there's any thinking within China about how to implement a policy that doesn't make local officials feel they have to meet a target.
Yes, I think all these policies will be carried out on the volunteer basis. If there's compulsory cases, it's not the wish of the government. And we are trying, to give educations, to give educations to the lower level, functionaries. Try to carry out in the proper way.
Thank you.
Ambassador, with the incorporation of Hong Kong and the development of this one country, two system philosophy, it seems like China might become a country with two distinct standards of living. I was wondering how China intends to keep its people from being dissatisfied or discontent.
Yes. Hong Kong will remain as it is, and the mainland China will also remain as it is. What's the trouble? Because, of course, some people in Guangdong province, they went to Hong Kong. Yes, the living standard in Hong Kong is higher, but the working is more intensive. You have to work harder. It's true. If you want to enjoy a better life, you have to work harder. I think this is the way. So if there is a competition, then you have to work hard. Actually, in China, we are trying every way to advocate competition. This big part policy no longer exists.
There's a questioner up on the...
Yeah.
You said earlier that the U.S. and China could see eye to eye on some issues like Cambodia and Afghanistan, but that they had differences over things like the Middle East and Central America. And I was wondering if you could outline for me China's foreign policy concerning the Arab-Israeli dispute and current developments in Iran and Iraq.
And on the issue of Iran-Iraq, we hope that both sides will restrain, because we are concerned the possibility of escalation of the war. We really hope that both sides will restrain themselves and to negotiate on a mutually accepted conditions and to stop the war.
There's a questioner then.
You said a couple of minutes ago that your wish for the country of Kampuchea is that foreign troops leave and that it becomes an independent and non-aligned and peaceful country. And I was wondering if that's also your wish for the nation of Tibet.
Yes. Yes. I think even your president recognized Tibet is part of China. Why we cannot station troops? Just like you station troops in Nevada. Nevada is a state of the United States.
President.
We'll go around the room if that's all.
Yeah. I would like to ask a more specific question about Israel. Why can't you establish relationship with Israel and deal with it afterwards in terms of all the problems that you may consider? Why don't you establish diplomatic relationship with Israel? And you can continue developing the correspondence with them.
I'm sorry, you continue developing
the relationship with them. In other words, I would like to ask if you are very generous about various places that you spoke about, why aren't you more firm with reference to Israel? Establish relationship with Israel, and then we will continue talking.
Our position on the Middle East is very clear. That's, we support the Arabic justice position. And our stand is like this. Israel should return their occupied Arab land to Arabic countries and let the Palestinian nation restore their national rights. And also all the countries in the Middle East have the right of exist, including Israel. As to our relation with Israel, I think it's also premature.
May I call you Comrade Ambassador? Since the Chinese government advocates competition, I'm trying to join the competition. Myself, being a citizen of the People's Republic of China, I remember discussing with Your Excellency Ambassador 5 years ago about political reforms in China. I have been following the Chinese media very closely in recent months and have read some very exciting reports concerning the various scenarios for engaging in political reforms in China. I would like to have your views on how far China can go and how far the Communist Party of China is ready to go, and how far do you yourself would like China to go. And since you expressed the view that China would like to see that no political party will monopolize political power in Kampuchea, would you like to see the same thing happen in China, that no one political party monopolizing all political power, and political power is to be shared by all political parties, including the Nationalist Party in Taiwan?
It's true we are going to carry out the political structure reform. This reform is mainly devoted to eliminate the bureaucracy I have mentioned in my speech. And but the 4 principles we will insist. That means we are trying to improve the leadership of the party, but not exclude the leadership of the party. And we hope to give more, we will carry out this socialist democracy and to encourage the incentives of the people of the lower level and to the grassroots to work to be more enthusiastic to the public affairs. So this is, I think, the main purpose to carry out the political reform. But there is no intention to change the political system of China, because China is going to build a socialist China, socialist country with Chinese characteristic. We are now exploring this socialist, because it's different with the other socialists. So because we have explored for 30 years and we find our own way. This is the present situation. So as to how far this reform of political structure will be, let us wait, because we have to carefully discuss among the peoples, among all levels of the functionaries, in order to not cause any chaos. Why China have a great improvement in the past few years? Because the political situation in China is stable. We don't want to see any more turmoil in China like the Cultural Revolution. Why the economy of China grows fast in the past 7 or 8 years because there is a stable political situation. So we hope to enhance the living standard of the Chinese people. So we hope the stability of the political situation of China will continue.
Thank you, comrade.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador. It was announced yesterday that the United States had agreed to sell $500 million worth of radar and other electronics equipment for the Chinese F-8 fighter. Now, is this deal indicative of a move toward closer U.S.-Chinese military cooperation? And if so, what are the implications for Sino-Soviet relations?
It's true. There are about 2 sales of arms signed between China and the United States. One is about the artillery shell, another is about improvement of the F-8. I mean, this is only for defense purpose. It's not offensive arms. As to our relation with Soviet Union, there are some improvement in culture, trade, personal exchanges. But in political field, there's no substantive improvement because there exist 3 obstacles. Number 1, they are supporting Vietnam to occupy Cambodia by force and oppose China. Second, their military occupation in Afghanistan. Third, their massive concentration of forces along Sino-Soviet border, including Mongolia. So only after they remove 3 obstacles, and there is no substantial improvement of our relation with Soviet Union. Although General Secretary Gorbachev made a speech in Vladivostok, July 28th, something seems very attractive. I mean, but they deliberately not mention about the withdrawal of Vietnamese troops from Cambodia. And this is a most concerned about by China. So that's why when Deng Xiaoping answered the question of Mike Wallace during the interview, if the Gorbachev promised to withdraw Vietnamese troops from Cambodia, and he can break the rule not to go abroad anymore than to meet Gorbachev anywhere and anytime if they promise this, remove these obstacles. So this is about the present situation. I mean, our relations with Sino-Soviet relations.
If we have quick questions, I think we can maybe make another round of the microphones, but I don't know. Mr. Ambassador, are you holding up or giving you a... yes.
Mr. Ambassador, I'm very proud to be a Harvard alumnum, but a friend of mine who graduated from Yale came to me the other day with a very simple question which I cannot answer. I was hoping that you can shed some light on this question. The question was, if you have 2 umbrellas, one in perfect condition, the other one broken, you will undoubtedly pick up the good one when you need an umbrella. If you have 2 umbrellas, both are in very good condition, why bother to carry both of them at one and the same time? Under the same token, why do you think it's necessary for a unified China to adopt 2 different self-contradicting systems at one and the same time?
Because this is historical facts.
You have
to confront. Yes, because we have to realize the facts. There is 2 systems exist. How can you compel the other to follow the... We don't want to impose upon our system to Taiwan. And while Taiwan compels us to change our system. So let's unite. In two social systems. Yes, it's good for the Chinese nation. We can cooperate.
Which part of China?
Yes, Taiwan and the mainland China.
Yes, up on the.
A moment ago, you talked about 3 obstacles to Sino-Soviet relationship or normalization of relations. And before, earlier in your speech, you talked about some of the mutual interests that motivated our rapprochement, the U.S.-Sino rapprochement. I'm wondering if you could briefly characterize some of the mutual interests that the Soviet Union and China have that are motivating China and the Soviet Union to normalize relations, and if there are any, what are the implications with regard to the United States?
I think there is one thing we have to understand first. To improve relations, between China and the United States, have no connection with the to improve relation between China and Soviet Union. These are 2 different things. The same thing. We are not worried about you improve your relation with Soviet Union. We only welcome, because it's good for the world peace. So if we are improving our relations with Soviet Union, we have conditions. We have 3. Only if the Soviets remove the 3 obstacles, there will be no substantive improvement between China and Soviet Union.
And the first part of the question was, what were the mutual interests that the Soviet Union and Chinese have in normalizing relationships?
What interest do the Soviet Union and China share that would lead to normalization? What is the basis for thinking there is possibility for movement?
No, because it's up to Soviet Union. From our side, it's very clear. We have bring up these 3 obstacles, because all these 3 obstacles pose threat towards China. Because Afghanistan is a neighboring country. Cambodia is Vietnam also the neighboring country, and also the massive military concentration is also along the border. We are considering our national security.
We really only have time for the last 2, if they're quick questions. Up on.
Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned twice about the need to fight bureaucracy, and you're absolutely right, so I have to take it at face value. But the quickest way and the shortest way to fight bureaucracy, be it in a country or in a corporation, is to allow free enterprise to flourish. Do you have any plans long-term for denationalization, having private enterprise take over a lot of the things that the state has kind of really screwed up in China?
We have already give many freedom to small and medium-sized enterprise, but not the major industry, because we don't want a private person will monopolize a major production or industry like steel mill, railway, and these things in China, because this is the public ownership is one of the basic principles of our socialism. And we are now permit some part of people to be wealthy in advance, ahead of other part. But we hope at last there is a common prosperity. These are the 2 principles. One is public ownership. The second is common prosperity. We stick to these principles, these 2 principles, in order to construct our socialism.
And the last question.
Another economic question. Historically, China has always tempted investors with the large market, and seldom has that large market materialized. what does the government intend to do in the rural areas to increase disposable income and domestic demand to allow the domestic market to materialize so that industries don't get bogged down in exports, which would be, of course, retaliated in the case of textiles by American quotas?
How are you going to develop the income in the countryside so that the demand for the products will come from the Chinese domestic market? The demand for the products of foreign investors will come from the Chinese domestic market rather than from exports, that is, so that foreign investors can sell more to the Chinese domestic market rather than to abroad.
Yes. In the near future, I mean, at the beginning, a lot of foreign investors or foreign investment look China as a big market. I mean, that's to take the domestic market of China. But China now is in the situation in shortage of foreign currency. So we cannot spend too much money for consuming goods. So we would rather use the hard foreign currency to buy the productive facilities. So now, in the near future, there will not be a very big domestic market to be allocated to the foreign investor. We encourage the foreign investment to those industries, I mean, to produce commodities for export or to substitute those we need to import. And then we give preferential treatment to those joint ventures. This is the main content of this new regulation issued October 11th by the State Council.
Thank you very much. We want to first apologize to the number of you who are not getting their questions in. We've already, I think, imposed on Ambassador Han's time. He has taken now about 50-some minutes straight of questions. I don't know that you're used to that vigorous questioning. He's going to get grilled by more of these questions about foreign investment tomorrow at lunch, about why foreign investors aren't getting as rich as they thought they were going to get. So he needs to rest up for those questions. I thank all of you for coming and for maintaining the Harvard traditions of asking vigorous questions. And I thank Ambassador Han for sharing your wisdom with us over the past hour and a half. It's been a great pleasure to have you.